franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Nice Guy Dating Podcast, episode 236.
Nice Guy Nation, what is up? It is Kevin Alexander of the Nice Guy Dating Podcast, where nice guys finish first.
You're a nice guy. You'll find somebody. It's just not gonna be me.
Nice Guy Dating exists for the nice guy. The nice guy who is always being rejected for being a nice guy. It's a problem only a nice guy would understand.
You know, you're like my goofy little brother. I want to keep it that way.
Nice guys come to Nice Guy Nation because they're tired of the rejection and tired of not understanding what women want and flat out tired of being alone.
You're my best friend, and we should stay that way.
Nice Guy Nation is something real that real nice guys can identify with. We're not PUA playboys pretending to live some VIP lifestyle while we secretly sleep on our sister's couch. We're regular guys who live regular lives, who want to sweep women off their feet by showing them the kind of nice guy we really are.
And, you know, I don't want to ruin our friendship. It's just not going to work.
The Nice Guy Dating Podcast is where nice guys learn how to harness the irresistibly attractive power of living true to yourself, living with passion, and having a vision for how you want your life to be. I'm Kevin Alexander, and welcome to where nice guys finish first.
Whoo, Nice Guy Nation, what is up? Kevin Alexander here, Nice Guy Dating Podcast, where nice guys like you, sir, finish first. Because this is like a factual, scientifically proven statement. You are on Nice Guy Nation. You are Nice Guy Nation. So therefore, you are a nice guy who finishes first. It is a verifiable, logical, scientifically proven fact. So if anybody ever tries to, say otherwise, you just go, oh, cool. Tell me more about that. And just let them go. Just let them go. You just don't have to worry about it. It'd be like if somebody came up to you and said, gravity doesn't exist. You're like, really? Tell me about that. It's amazing. Wow, cool. Scientifically proven fact. Boom. Nice guy. You, sir, Nice Guy Nation. You guys finish first. Boom. All right. So, really quick, I just want to let you guys know that I am going to be speaking at an event in August, this August. Okay, like right now it's June. Then comes July, then comes August. In August, I'm going to be speaking at an event called the Elite Man Conference. Okay, put on by Justin Stenstrom of the Elite Man podcast. So, basically, the Elite Man Conference is the ultimate conference for men. If you were a man, that means you. Any man looking to master his personal, social, and business life has to be at this life-changing event because you have to be at this event because you're going to meet and learn from the world's best experts in self-development, such as yours truly. You're going to learn from their struggles and successes and discover the secrets to mastering all sorts of incredible topics. The conference is going to be 3 action-packed and highly transformative days from August 5th to August 7th in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I'm going to be featured with up to 40 other amazing speakers who are going to cover everything from business to health to fitness to dating. That's where I come in. To confidence. Well, I actually kind of come in a little bit too. To fashion, to self-defense. Oh, we're going to be talking about self-defense. I'll tell you that. Self-defense from all the ladies that are going to be trying to break down your door and take you hostage, my son, my friend. And so much more. So don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime conference. So go ahead and go to niceguydating.ca/elitemanconference, all one word, niceguydating.ca/elitemanconference. So go ahead and pick up those tickets, and I will see you there. Let's go ahead and get into today's action-packed material. Through a mutual friend in Toronto, T-Dot, I ended up meeting Frank Kermit, who actually lives in Montreal, and got together, had a few conversations, and one of the things that we ended up talking about was the idea of stealing a jerk away from a woman, saving women from jerks. I know it's a topic that is just, boom, yanked right on those heartstrings of Nice Guy Nation, is girls say they want a nice guy, but they're always dating jerks. And Frank Kermit actually wrote a book. There's a coupon code if you go to niceguydating.ca/E236 to the show notes page. That's niceguydating.ca/E236. You're going to have a coupon code to go ahead and pick up Frank's book on how to steal the woman that you want away from a jerk. I highly recommend it. And I also wanted to bring Frank on so that we could talk about this topic that is so near and dear to a nice guy's heart, which is, okay, so women say they want a nice guy, but they seem to be going for jerks. How do I steal her away? How do I save her from these jerks? Let's go to get into this amazing conversation on stealing women away from jerks. Let's do it. Just with me right now. Just we're going to be stealing. We're going to be heroes. We're going to be knights in shining armor. We're going to be stealing girls away from jerks. We're going to be saving girls from jerks with none other than Frank Kermit. All right. Fantastic. So, Nice Guy Nation, I've got on the line today Frank Kermit. I said that correct?
Yep, Frank Kermit.
Fantastic. Because you're in Montreal, so just want to make sure it wasn't Kermit.
No, it's Kermit.
Fantastic. Frank Kermit, a certified trauma counselor, certified hypnotherapist, relationship columnist for the Suburban Online, official coach of Absolute Bachelor Club, matchmaking agency, and regular media correspondent for a variety of media outlets, including Dr. Lori Petito's Passion radio show on CGAD 800 AM. Frank believes in making the world a better place by teaching singles and couples about emotional needs for loving relationships. And today, we're going to be talking about Frank's unique experience, as well as how to steal the woman you want away from the jerk she may currently be with or chasing after. Just thinking, I just got a girl's phone number today, and it was like, the jerk that she might be involved with. So it's going to be a really good conversation. And I'm super stoked to have Frank on. So Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It's good to be here.
Fantastic. Now, I gave you quite the intro, but why don't you tell Nice Guy Nation a bit about yourself?
Okay, I got stood up at my prom.
What?
Yeah, that's where this all started. I got stood up at my prom. A few years later, I lost my ex-fiancée to my best friend.
Whoa.
A couple of years after that, I was hanging out with a girl for about 2 years. When I say hanging out, meaning I was taking her all kinds of places. And she insisted we could never be a couple because I was of a different race, religion, and culture. Oh. And I said, I'm not happy about it, but at least I can respect the fact that she has boundaries and she has rules and she's sticking to them, which, with my history of losing my ex-fiancée and so on, I'm sure you can imagine meeting a girl who was true to her word was very important to me, so I was happy to have her in my life as a friend. And then one day she announces to me she's getting married. Not happy about that, but what the hey, I can still hope. And turns out the guy that she was marrying was a lot more like me than not. And so when I asked her, wait a minute, come on, you said we couldn't be together because we were of a different race, religion, and culture, and you ended up marrying a guy who's of a different race, religion, and culture. Like why him and not me?
Yeah.
And her response was, I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened. He seduced me.
Yeah.
Ended up suicidal for a period of time because, bad thing happens to you with the prom. You start thinking, okay, it's all on her. The whole ex-fiancé thing, well, they were just bad people and I made a bad choice. But when it happens to you time and time again, and these are just three of the worst. There was a few others in between I don't talk about, but these were three of the worst. This is when I finally had to say, okay, this is on me now. I'm the common element in all of this. So either I'm going to change and figure out this part of my life, or I am going to kill myself. And I was very serious about that. I stopped. I was in the middle of a university program at the time, and I wasn't even interested in continuing on because I didn't see a point. Mm-hmm. At that point in my life, I had a wall filled with degrees, awards I had earned, times I'd appeared in the media for my profession, and all of it was meaningless because I didn't have anybody to share it with, and that's really all I wanted. So I began this journey where I just assumed that I knew nothing. I'm going to start from the bottom. I started talking to people who I knew were really good at picking up girls and getting girlfriends. And I kept picking their brains saying, so what is it you do? What is it you do? And I would make deals with them. Okay, we're going to go out to a club. I'll pay for everything. I just want to watch what you do. And that's how it began. I talked to people who had been married for something like 50 years, and I was picking their brains. I would even talk to people who had been married for something like 50 years, and I would pick their brains. Then I would go off to the swingers clubs and try to say, okay, here are people who have a very different lifestyle. They're not monogamous. How did they make this work? The more people I spoke to, the more confused I got. Because I was just looking, well, I'm looking for somebody who has it all figured out. And the key here is I documented everything. I journaled everything. So I had a conversation with somebody, I journaled it. I went into the fetish realm, trying to figure out, okay, maybe these people have it all figured out. And across the board, you had long-term relationships, you had short-term relationships, and what I eventually learned in all this is that nobody has it figured out.
Really?
Nobody has it figured out. The key is to figure out what it is you want, what it is you need, and to find a compatible partner. And that's it. Like, that's really the formula. Know what it is you want, go after it and get it. And that's really it. By journaling everything, I then ended up in a position where I always had something to go back to. And as the same questions came up, I was able to look at it from different points of view and from different types of relationship structures. I certainly didn't plan to get into the business. I had a career track, education-wise, career-wise, in the entertainment industry, in the administration level. I had no intention of becoming a coach in this business, but as I started to figure things out and start coming up with my emotional needs theories and started to, go from 5 years of no sex to having 5 lovers and girlfriends at the same time, the people around me started noticing these changes too. Some of them had a problem with it. Some of them wanted my advice. So they would start taking me out for dinners and coffees. And at one point it was, okay, meet with one guy over dinner and coffee, give him some advice. He tries it, it works. He comes back, he brings a friend.
Right.
Next thing I know, I would show up to these cafes and I would be lecturing, and there'd be a table of guys around me with notebooks, just hanging on every word. And this was starting to cut into my personal time. And I was thinking, okay, well, you know what? Now I'm getting to the point where I'm finishing up my lesson in this area of my life. How do I basically say, okay, guys, I'm done with this?
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe I should just take all of my journals, put together a book, release it, and that'll be that. They'll never ask me questions again.
Never.
Never.
Never. Not once.
Yeah. So one guy actually was asking me, he says, Frank, when are you going to put together a book? Because he had come to 2 or 3 of my coffee meetings, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I've been thinking I need to write one. And this wasn't because I wanted to coach more. This was so that you don't need me anymore. Just go to the book. It'll have all of my stories. It'll have all my suggestions and all of my learning.
Right.
So I decided to put out a couple of books, and there you go. I have some books. You don't need to talk to me anymore. Go to the books. Well, that didn't exactly work out, because they would actually go to the books, and the more they read my books, the more questions were coming in. It's like, but there's basic information in the books. Yes, but now we have advanced level questions. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And I just ended up in a situation where around the same time, a few things in my life, personal life had happened, death of a parent, moving cities and starting a new life somewhere. And I just remember thinking, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I just want to see what happens. And over the years, I've had day jobs, night jobs, but I'm finally at a point after nearly 15 years of doing this where I don't have any job outside of coaching and doing media. And it's a nice life. It's a nice life, but it's taken over 10 years to get here.
Yeah. That's a quick side. Is I think I actually just wrote this in a post the other day for Chris Haven for Quit Porn Get Girls. He asked me to contribute a post on dating and nice guys, and so I wrote a post on, I call it dating successfully with nice guy syndrome, and the transition that I went through. And one of the things I mentioned is I'm noticing there's more and more and more is, I don't know if it's a generational thing or just because of how technology is in general, but we have an emphasis on things have to happen right now. And this idea of the overnight success has always been a part of our society, regardless of the time frame. But no, it takes time. It takes a few years to really get the kinks out, and it takes a few years to define yourself and who you are and learn the things that you need to learn and step out of your own way, as I've noticed for myself as well, is how much of my earlier material was me just getting things out that needed to get out at a therapeutic level. And before I start actually helping people, once doing that has helped me and things like that. So I just want to really like that you pointed out, like, hey, no, it takes some time. What's going to get you there is the tried and true tenacity that you'll have and the confidence in yourself, even in the worst of times that you're going to doubt yourself.
I tell guys when they first start out with me, when I started out with this, there wasn't the abundance of material available to study and examples to study. So it took me nearly 3 years to get my first girl from the period I started in. That 5-year dry spell was about halfway through that I decided that I was going to make this a goal for myself. And that was 3 years of trial and error. 3 years of somebody suggested, Frank, try this. I'd go out and try it, and I made a fool of myself countless times. One guy told me, hey man, it's really easy. Just grab a book, go to the park, sit under a tree, read your book, and girls will approach you. I went there for hours.
Yeah, maybe one might at some point, maybe.
Not one. I didn't get one. Then I actually met the guy who gave me this advice face to face.
Yeah.
Well, no kidding that girls were approaching him. The guy looked like an Adonis. I mean, he was a great-looking guy, but in his mind, it was about him sitting in the park reading. In his mind, it was about him sitting in a park reading a book. That's what brought the girls, not the fact that he was already a very good-looking guy. Yeah. So when I told him, man, I did exactly what you said, and not one girl approached me, he thought I was lying. Yeah. He said, nah, man, you're lying. You didn't really try. I said, no, I did. I got the grass stains on my pants to prove it. You want to come over and do my laundry? You know?
Hopefully it was a good book. But, I mean, going back to your story, I mean, totally resonates with Nice Guy Nation because, I mean, being stood up at prom, losing a fiance to a best friend. I've talked to guys on Nice Guy Nation who are in similar situations. They're just angry. They're burned. From situations like that. They're mad at their friend, they're mad at her, they're angry. And then the other thing too is, as it's termed, being friend zoned with this girl for a couple of years, and taking at face value the logical reason that she gave you for not being in a relationship, despite the fact that she could look past all of those things if she were triggered on enough of an emotional level to believe that you were lover material, which is what happened when she ended up marrying that other guy, is all those same logical reasons of, I was actually just reading a Grant Cardone book, and he was talking about how he met his wife, and he chased after her for a year, leaving a voicemail on her voicemail once a month for an entire year, and it wasn't until the 13th voicemail where she finally called him back and went out with him. And the entire time he was hearing from her friends, no, you're too short, she doesn't like businessmen, she doesn't like the way you look. And he's just like, whatever, I'm in sales, that's called a complaint. I can handle complaints, I can turn complaints into sales, let's do this. This isn't an objection. And it was just, boom, just kept going and going. And they've been married for over 10 years now. They've got 2 kids together. So it's like the logical reasons that she gave, she can look past a few triggers, some of those things. And then, it just happened. I remember being that angry guy too. Wait a minute, you told me you weren't looking for a relationship and now you're with that guy. Oh, it just happened. I'm like, well, what does that mean? It just happened. And as well, about 4 years ago now, I remember making that decision where I got angry about what had happened. And I said, no, I'm no longer going to be angry about this anymore. Similarly, I'm the common denominator here. I need to get this part of my life figured out. How can I, start doing that? And as well, I went to the library. I got romance novels. I started dissecting them. I've got notes on romance novels. This is how you should walk. This is how you should talk. This is how you should look at them. This is how women perceive sex and how sex should go. And Learned how to talk dirty at the wrong time, which is like a nuclear bomb. Learned how to talk dirty at the right time, which is also like a nuclear bomb. And same thing. It's just if taking that action, doing that trial and error. Obviously, when I learned there were more materials available. However, if I didn't take action and try the things, I would have never have found my own groove with the information, or as I like to say, we could talk about what is charm, and then we could bring up 5 different guys who abide by the rules of, say, being charming, but they all own it in their own way. Mm-hmm. And, the other thing, too, is we'll look at all that I have, these degrees, these certificates, these awards, but it's all entirely meaningless unless I actually have somebody to share it with, which is so true. I remember when I was in my own dry spell as well, I think it's probably 5 years, if not more as well, actually. I remember my talents that I have, such as I love to cook, I have a massive recipe book, I love to read, I love to share knowledge, I love to do all these things, including music, I've been in bands, etc. And I just remember at one point, before it actually clicked and I started on my journey, this was a couple of years before that, there were moments where I would make some really good meal, and it was like, well, it's great that I could have this for myself, but wouldn't it be even better if I had somebody to share this with, and then eventually a family to share this with? Mm-hmm. And it starts really getting into the essence of life, because especially being a dad now, it's really honed in on, or lasered in on, the idea that it's no longer about chasing money or chasing time or really chasing anything. It's just, well, hold on a second. How can we maximize this moment right now? And with whom can we share it? And, I love that you went out and interviewed people on how to make it work, because one of my favorite books is The Richest Man in Babylon. And a key lesson in that book is, well, if you want to learn how to do something, stop asking people who aren't doing it. Start asking people who are doing it. Find out what the principles are, not necessarily what they're doing, but the principles behind it. Mm-hmm. And, it's like you said, well, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and that's zeroing in on, or narrowing in on, well, what they're doing. But then the principle that you took out of it was, well, figure out what you want, what you need, and find a compatible partner, which is beautiful because, for example, if my son's mom were not together, we always get asked all the time, why aren't you together? I'm like, well, sure, we might have a bit of chemistry, or at least we did. We might have a bit of compatibility, but we're not what we want long term. We're not what we need long term. If you put us together, it's just not a right situation. And so many times beforehand, I would think, maybe I am an asshole. And it's like, well, no, you're just with the wrong person. Because when you're with the right person, there's certain behaviors you're not going to exert and exhibit. That I exhibit, for example, with my son's mom, or she exhibits with me. It's like, no, she's not a bitch. She's just hanging around the wrong guy right now. And it's not because we're bad people. It's just a compatibility thing. And, know what you want and go out and get it, which really brings us to today's discussion, which is, okay, so you know what you want. You're going to go out and get it. But the girl is either with a jerk, or she seems to be attracted to jerks. So I want to bring the conversation really quick to, well, what is a jerk per se, and what is it about women that they seem to love these jerks?
Okay, let's first of all, for the purposes of this interview, a jerk is anyone willing to use violence, threats, and insults in order to maintain the girl in his life. We're talking about put-downs, the idea of you're worthless without me, that sort of thing. When a guy gets to the point where he's using that, which is verbal violence, he's a jerk. Why would a woman even date a jerk? There's a distinction here, and if you can understand this distinction, you're going to understand why anybody is with anybody. When I wrote out my emotional needs theories, one of the principles is, it's not about what a person likes, it's about what that person responds to. So you might be, and this goes for men and women, you might be attracted to someone who on some level you just don't like and you just don't get along with. But there's something about them that you feel is a pull, you feel some kind of a connection, attraction, a bond. Can't explain it. it's because we're dealing with emotional needs. We're dealing with what you, as a person, responds to. It's not about what you like. It's about what you respond to. Now, if you can understand this, you're going to understand why any two people get together and they seem to fight and they seem to argue and they just don't seem to get along, and what's going on, because you're really good in this area but you're not good in that area, or you just don't have the same future vision for yourselves. What is key here? What's key is that you are responding to something, whether something that person says, does, the energy they give off, you respond to them even if you don't like what's going on. So specifically, we're dealing with a woman who's dating a violent jerk. She knows logically that, hey, this guy's violent and this is not good, but she can't help but respond to some of his behaviors. That's her emotional needs profile at work. That's her internal attraction mechanism, how her emotional needs will direct her to somebody. That's what's going on. So that's why any woman is dating a jerk initially. What you have to assess, if you want to be with the girl who is either with a jerk or is always dating jerks, we have to do an assessment with you as well as to what is it about that situation that's causing you to respond. Do you have what I call in my practice the savior complex? This is where some guys feel the need that they have to save a girl in order to feel worthy of love. If I save her, she'll love me forever and she won't abandon me because she'll owe me. Because maybe the guy deep down doesn't feel that he's lovable enough without having saved her. Guys will enact the savior complex in other ways in their life. I have to become rich, because if I'm rich and I provide her a life where she doesn't have to work and everybody's taken care of, I have saved her from that, therefore I have earned love. When the process is, you are lovable as is, you just don't know it yet. And until you get to the point where you love yourself enough, where you understand that what you have to offer really is enough, then we can move beyond that need of trying to get the girl and trying to save somebody in order to feel loved.
Yeah, and you bring up a very, not just a deep topic, but an intrinsic topic to the show, because I always talk about truth, passion, vision, true to yourself, who are you deep on the inside, living a life filled with passion, which can be a transition. I've got guys on who are anywhere from an IT consultant to an accountant to even working at as a bartender or a grocery store, but they're like, well, I got to figure out what it is I want to do with my life. Well, as you figure that out in transition, you'll have passion, as you mentioned earlier, a vision for how you want your life to be. A couple of guys recently had actually broken up with their girlfriends because they realized after listening to the show that they don't have similar visions for how they want their future to be, and they're actually not on the same path, and they're just stuck together because, well, everybody else is doing it and it seems right, but they realize, well, hold on a second, truth, passion, vision, who am I truly, what's my passion, and are we on the same path? And so one of the things we talk about that is, well, loving yourself, and you brought up a very keen point is, well, hold on a second, so clearly she is responding to this behavior at an emotional level, not a logical level. All women logically, if you were to walk up to anyone right now and say, hey, do you want to bring another asshole into your life or another jerk into your life? You're like, no, I want a nice guy. Do you know where they are? I'd love to find one. Or a song that's on top 40 right now is Where Do All the Good Guys Go? And I've heard it from women all the time. Well, just tell me where the nice guys are, and I'll be there. I'll be there on time. I'll be there 10 minutes early. Are you kidding?
I get a lot of women clients asking me that, and what I tell them is, the nice guys are all around you. It's you who's choosing not to go after them. It's you who's choosing not to date them.
Exactly.
And it's quite the shock for some women when they realize that they really do have the power to choose better partners. And I think there's going to be a huge backlash coming that's already started now. One of the most amazing things about how technology has changed the world of dating and relationships is that people's histories are recorded. People can't get away with saying the past is this past and we're here now. So that if you've ever got a repeating behavior pattern where, you've dated jerk after jerk after jerk. Well, nobody's going to have sympathy for you anymore. Nobody's going to say, oh, poor baby anymore. Because, hey, come on, okay, the first time it happens, oops, yeah, you were new, you were inexperienced. Second time it happens, okay, yeah, you had to learn the lesson the hard way. But when it happens over and over again, people are looking at you and saying, okay, you haven't learned a damn thing.
Yeah.
And the sympathy factor is starting to be removed. People don't want to hear it. In fact, even in the world of therapy, there used to be a time a woman would come in and says, I'm dating a jerk or I'm married a jerk. And the initial response was, get out of the house, get away from him. That's changed as well. With even the therapy movement saying, we're not going to push this woman to leave the jerk immediately because we know repeating behavior patterns take effect. We know that even if we separate her from this jerk and possibly the father of her children, she's going to repeat this pattern with somebody else, possibly have more kids with somebody else,
yep.
and create an even bigger situation.
Correct. Yeah.
That's why you have people like Dr. Steve Stosny, who I'm a big fan of his work. And he's teaching, because he does seminars on intervention for domestic violence relationships. And he talks about, you don't tell people just get away from them. You go in there and say, look, we got to find a way to work with everybody together and teach compassion and teach ways to diffuse those triggers where somebody erupts. And it has nothing to do with what somebody else is doing. This is all internal for each person. Mm-hmm. But then you also have to ask why you would respond to that relationship to begin with, because if you don't address that, you're destined to repeat that.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the things when guys come to me and say, and the whole reason I created this program, it's an ebook and 2 CDs. The whole reason I created this program was because of how many guys come up to me. There's this girl I really like, but she keeps dating jerks. How do I show her I'm the better option? And it's like, how much of a better option could you be? You're after a girl who only dates jerks. And that's the, oh my God. I sometimes, I'm not the nicest guy when I'm coaching. No. And I don't mean to be rude. It's just, how else can I explain it? Because a true quality man wants and seeks a true quality woman. Mm-hmm. And if you're going after people who continually put themselves in very dangerous situations, potentially violent situations, it doesn't seem like much when we're at the dating level. But let's move into another stage of life. Would you want the mother of your children, when the two of you are separated, to be the type of woman who's going to expose your kids to violence in the home? Once I get people to think at that level, all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah.
Because these guys are no longer thinking about, well, it's about my well-being. It's about, yeah, if I go out with this girl and get serious with this girl and she has a history of only dating jerks, chances are, if our relationship doesn't work out and we're dealing with a 50 percentile divorce rate, well, the next guy that she lands with and is going to move into a house where my kids are going to be staying may likely be a violent jerk. And if that happens, my kids are going to be... All of a sudden, the criteria starts to change for these guys.
Yeah, because we're thinking strategically. We're thinking long term. I'm thinking of another book that I've been reading right now with Robert Greene, 33 Strategies of War, in which case it's about thinking strategically. If we look at great military generals as he does, it's not about the battles, it's about the war. It's about where are we going with this? What's the bigger picture? And when thinking about it that way, well, why are you chasing after this girl, number one? What are your reasons for it? And is it short term or is it long term? And if we really are thinking long term, well, then what's your vision for how you want your life to be going back to that? If you want to get married and have kids, let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's talk about the propensity that she has to, for whatever reason, we could probably get into self-image psychology, the way that she identifies herself based on whatever happened in her life. It could be previous relationships, it could be parents, where she identifies as the kind of person that, oh, well, I'd really like a nice guy, but I guess I just seem to be the kind of girl who dates jerks. Boom, now we have an identity that is very hard to break. Where, okay, well, I could date a jerk, but then she's going to start, a nice guy, but then she's going to start to panic because it's uncertain. She's never been there before. She doesn't know what it is. She doesn't know what it's like. and then he's not going to be abusive. It's kind of, I lived in Russia for a little while, and they have a saying that if he doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you. And so there's like a story of a German who married a Russian wife, and the joke, I don't even know how, they have the strangest jokes in Russia, but one of the jokes was the cooking started getting bad and she stopped having sex with him, and he was asking the family, well, what do I do? And he said, well, when was the last time you beat her? And he's like, why would I beat her? I love her. And you're like, no, just start beating her. So he starts beating her, and then the cooking gets better, and then the sex resumes. It's like,
this is, these are not emotionally healthy dynamics.
No.
Okay, they're not emotionally, but I do get it. My heritage is Italian, and I remember visiting Italy for a couple of months as a teenager. And the lessons I picked up there were, if somebody does not, get exceptionally jealous whenever, they're feeling threatened, because, the girlfriend was talking to some guy, and you got to show jealousy, and you got to go in there, and you got to challenge him. And I'm just looking at this and thinking, no, even back then there was something wrong with that line of thinking, although I exhibited that line of thinking, especially when I was in high school and going into college, where I thought showing jealousy was showing love. Well, no, not necessarily, but it's the same type of thinking. Sometimes people really don't know any better.
Jealousy and love are oft confused.
Yes, they are, which is unfortunate. But when you want to understand dysfunction in relationships, look at the repeating behavior patterns that were taught in the family. Mm-hmm. And when we're trying to figure out, and if you ever study anything for the therapy source, study attachment theory by Dr. Bowlby, where he talks about everything is formed from the time that we're toddlers. Okay, and the whole mind of a toddler is, how do I survive? I am completely dependent on other human beings. I must get that other human being approval in some way. And if the other human being is distant, I will have to behave in a way maybe where I have to really try to get that person's attention. Here's what happens in the mind of a toddler as that toddler progresses into a teenager, adolescent, and an adult. What the toddler develops in thinking or associations for survival is what we as adults will reflect as falling in love. Mm-hmm. So the toddler who's basically being ignored by the parent because maybe the parent's too exhausted, or the parent's on drugs, or the parent's got their own problem, parent may be going through depression. And whatever the toddler has to do, sometimes the toddler says, okay, well, I'm going to be a little bit more docile because I don't want to upset the parent, or I'm going to get the parent's attention to the point where I'm going to be punished. We take those same repeating behavior patterns, and that becomes an interpretation of how we'll respond as having falling in love when we're adults. Mm-hmm. So the person coming up to us saying, I really like you, let's get together, and treats us well, it isn't that it's wrong, but it doesn't feel right. This is where you have couples who say, okay, but there's just something missing here. Everything should be okay, but there's something missing here, and they'll walk away from an emotionally healthy relationship. And the terms that I hear when I'm working with couples who are getting a divorce, usually it's the woman who's initiating the divorce. Most common reason, when we don't look at violence as a factor, most common reason, well, I'm bored. These are the same women who are walking away from really good guys, breaking up the family, not realizing that, and I tell every single one of them, because every single time an older woman comes into my office space or comes in for coaching, they always say the same thing. I regret my first divorce. Because they had a pretty good guy, they had their kids, they had their life, they got bored because something was missing. And they were looking to recreate the dynamic that they had, as dysfunctional as it is. They're looking to recreate the dynamic they had with their parents with somebody else. And a lot of these women end up completely alone because their kids look at them and say, and this is just more and more, when I told you there's a backlash coming and it's already started, I'm counseling single mothers who are older now, where they've left a husband, doesn't want anything more to do with them. Their own kids want nothing to do with them because the kids, and they all have the same experience. Mom, you ruined my life when I was a kid. You made things harder for me when I was in school. You broke me up. I had to live with you in 2 homes or saw only dad on the weekends. And you tried to turn me against dad. But you know what? I'm an adult now, and all those things you said, and I saw the lies you pulled, and I don't want to get into a relationship because I saw what you did to dad. I don't want some woman doing that to me. And they don't even want to have anything to do with the mother. So, because they say, Mom, you left dad because you wanted a better life. Your life is worse, and our lives became worse because of it.
Yep.
So we're getting off topic here, but there's so much that all
relate. Sir, I will bring it back. Don't you worry about a thing.
Okay. So
I'm really good at that. I call it the Kevin Alexander effect.
Okay, let's do the KA effect. Let's just do the KA effect. I basically, if there was one lesson that I could just impart to all of your listeners here, if you want to make sure to avoid these type of horrible situations that families are facing right now, and I'm saying this as somebody who studied game, who used game, who did multiple women management, who went through that process, who I'm happily married today. I got an amazing little boy. All I ever wanted was to be a husband and father, and I finally achieved it a little bit later in life, but I got to it. If there's one bit of advice I could give, it's this. Know exactly what you want. Know what kind of retirement lifestyle you want, what kind of day-to-day lifestyle you want. If you have health concerns coming up because of your family lineage, factor those in. Look for a partner that's compatible, and don't give in to this garbage about wanting something because you think you should from someone else or some other source. Yep. You got to know what you want, and that means that if somebody says, well, how about this? You have to be already aware of whether or not it would factor into you because of what your personal principles are. Absolutely. Once you know what you want, find yourself a compatible partner. You won't be part of that divorce statistic.
Exactly. Yeah, no, everything you said falls in line with what I call TPV, that truth, passion, vision. And the way I was going to bring it back is when you said that these women get bored in otherwise great relationships, is that, I know, for example, in your book you talk about a secret technique that jerks use to get women hooked. Is that something that is an issue? Is that great guys need to learn how to be more exciting? And we'll wrap up shortly after this response, but how can a guy bring in excitement that these women are looking for so that they don't get bored? Or is it that they're actually looking for something a little bit beyond excitement, a little bit beyond the ennui?
All right, I'm going to do my best to answer that question in the time allotted. The first thing I want to say is, although these women are claiming that they're bored and that's why they're moving on, oftentimes that's not the case. It isn't the boredom in the relationship. It's the fact that they're still trying to resolve something within themselves that they think that leaving their husbands is going to actually accomplish, and it won't. All they're going to do is that they're going to go through this process to realize, wow, I gave up everything and I have nothing now to show for it. Number 2, can the average nice guy do things to keep his relationship a little bit more exciting, a little bit more interesting? Absolutely. With the caveat, I don't advise any guy to do anything that is against his own principles.
Of course.
So I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say there's a guy, and we're thinking of the average nice guy. Let's say he's very monogamous. Okay? He's truly a monogamous. I would never suggest to him, well, maybe taking your wife to a group sex party or inviting a third person into the bedroom. I'm not going to say that that's what he should be doing, because if it's based on his principle, and his principle is, I'm monogamous and that's what I want, I'll never push those kind of boundaries.
Right.
I will say, however, let's find something that works within your boundaries. So if you're looking to add a little bit of excitement, a little bit of unpredictability, a little bit of random passion, I'll give him a dice. And I'll say, okay, this is one of those gamer's dice that's maybe 30-sided dice. Roll the dice. Number 12 comes up. Great. On the 12th day of next month, you're going to do something spontaneous. You're not even going to tell her. You're just going to come home and say, you know what? It's the 12th day of the month. And whatever it is that the two of you would normally do during courtship, you recreate it. Whether it's going out to a movie or a dinner or doing something at home, a bubble bath together by candlelight, whatever it is you did during courtship, you would reenact. And because you have that dice, you don't even know what's going to happen. You're just going to roll the dice, whatever number comes up, and then that once a month spontaneous activity happens.
Boom.
You have couples who do date night. You know, every Thursday is date night, and they'll get a babysitter, or they work it as part of into their regular routine. There's lots of ways to keep the sparks alive, to keep the passion alive, to keep things interesting. It takes a little bit of proactivity.
Takes using the brain that the Lord gave you.
In a matter of speaking, the thing is, most guys are smart. Okay, they know that there's something available. They're just trying to figure out, is it a good idea or not? And my advice is, start like that from the very beginning and do whatever you can to maintain. And it's not going to be easy. There's crises that are going to happen in families. There's health issues that are going to happen in families. But the bottom line is that any relationship, even the best of relationships, go through struggles. Whenever you see it, and this is one of the things I learned, you see a couple that's lasted 40 years. They dealt with the same problems every other couple does. Okay, they dealt with temporary infidelities. They dealt with family and friends trying to tear them apart and interfere. They dealt with challenges in raising their kids. Whatever the challenges may be, there is a challenge in raising every kid. Mm-hmm. They dealt with financial struggles. They dealt with a whole bunch of things. How they dealt with those problems was a factor in their being together. They're not any stronger, any smarter, any better people than anybody else. They just made one thing different. And the thing that was different is that they committed to a goal of whatever it is, we're going to find a way to work this out. There is no other option. We have a wonderful, intelligent, dynamic, younger generation right now that has intelligence and capabilities that no previous generation had, except for the fact that they don't know how to relate. Mm-hmm. And my hope is that one day, relationship skills, communication skills, how to get along, how to work things out, how to cope, coping skills, I'm hoping that's going to become part of a regular educational institution. Because I think that's something that we would need as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few doses of scarcity. Grocery stores are full of too much food.
I'll reserve judgment on that one.
Sure. One of the recent points that I had come across is that abundance leads to weakness. That yet must be balanced with episodes of scarcity. So, for example, ending your shower with a bit of cold water to balance out. Going without food for a little bit to balance out. Things like that. The idea that necessity really is the mother of invention, and through necessity is where that comes from, and that in an abundant society that is all abundant, there is no necessity. Because...
I do understand what you're saying with that, and to a certain point I can agree. One of the tenets that I teach is that the power of choice without the skills to know what to do with it can lead to misery, which I think is really the same line. Do you have such an abundance of choice, and it can lead to weakness? In my thinking, you have all this choice, because prior to more recent times, we had social norms in place that tell us what our gender roles were. Mm-hmm. Those social norms have been removed. Now it's a matter of you can have any kind of relationship you want. You want a monogamous relationship. You want an open relationship. You want something that's monogamish. You want to date a variety of genders. You want to date somebody of only one gender. You can have any kind of relationship you want, whether it's one person or even a group of people, all at the same time. Great. You have all this freedom. Freedom without knowing what to do with it. As you described, an abundance. The way I described, the power of choice. When you have all of this available to you, but you don't take the time to figure out, what am I going to do with all of this, can lead to misery. Whereas when you look at somebody who, let's say, had less opportunity, less choice, and maybe they didn't have the opportunity to go to university. Well, their choices may be limited in that way, so they have to figure out amongst what is available to them. They're going to pick something, they're going to go ahead with it, and they're going to build a life for themselves. Sometimes they end up much more fulfilled than somebody who's got all this choice and doesn't know what to do with it and makes bad choices for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very clever expansion on that.
So, I don't want to look at it, though, as abundance is the problem, or even that too much choice is the problem. I think it's good that people have choice. As a father, I want my son to have the maximum choices available to him. Mm-hmm. My job as a father, however, is to make sure that he has the cognitive ability to choose what are his best options based on what's available to him and what he wants for himself.
Yeah, how to sharpen your sword so that you actually know how to use it if you ever have it, right? Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. We have definitely covered a lot of topics today. Well, around one central topic, but we definitely weaved around quite a bit. So for the guys listening in, as a good recap, Frank, what are 3 tips that you have that guys can start using right now?
Okay, 3 tips that they can start using right now. Number 1, make a list of what you want in your ideal partner. Just go ahead, without thinking, sit down, write that list. Once you're done, I want you to write the second list. What do you want in the mother of your future children? And just go ahead, don't even think about it. What do you want in the mother of your future children? And write that down. Now you know the difference between the girl that you want to have some fun with and the girl that you should commit your life to. That's the first thing. The second thing I would tell guys to figure out is get your life plan done. Assume you'll die at 100, assume you're going to retire at 70, and I want you to write out a life plan, where you want to live, why you want to live, and whatever it is you think that, wow, this is something I absolutely have to have in my life. You can call it your bucket list. You can call it whatever you want. Just make sure that you write it down and attach a deadline to it for whatever year it is. By this year, I want to finish school. By this year, I want to be married and have kids. By this year, I want to have my 3rd kid. Because once you have that timeline, you're going to start seeing, wait a minute, I can't go live overseas for a year if that's the same year that I'm supposed to be finishing up my master's degree. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's what you're trying to figure out. It eliminates a lot of the hassles in your life plans, because you don't want to wake up one day and say, I thought I was going to be married by the time I was 35 and I'm still single. What happened? What happened is you can't rely on luck for things to occur. You got to do, just like every other part of your life, you got to work for it. Mm-hmm. And the third thing, and this is the most major thing, eliminate all of your personal hypocrisies. And here's the classic example. If you're the type of person that you want to go out and have a one-night stand, that's okay. If that's really what you want, there's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as you have that one-night stand, don't turn around and, abuse the girl that you're with by calling her names and saying, I can't believe you went out and had sex. That's a personal hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's dealing with a personal hypocrisy, you won't find contentment in your life. Because anybody, and you'll see them in the media, you'll see them on the street, anybody that has any sort of double standard, they are miserable. They will never find peace. These are people who don't sleep at night. Eliminate all of your personal hypocrisies, and sometimes that means you may have to really redefine what your belief structure is. That's okay too. But once you eliminate any of your personal hypocrisies, you start to understand some basic principles that affect your life in and out of every means, every facet. Mm-hmm. That would be one of the last things that I would impart. I mean, it's a pretty big...
It's a tall order, sir.
So I could spend hours of coaching with somebody just to eliminate these personal hypocrisies. But the peace that someone finds at the end of that, if you want to reach a point where nobody can influence you to do something you don't want to do, if you want to be in that position where no one could ever manipulate you into a corner to make choices that are not in your best favor, elimination of your personal hypocrisies will put you in a position where no one, and I mean no one, can get you to do something that is in your detriment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that last point falls in line with, excuse me, jeez Louise, falls in line with everything we've talked about. If you love yourself, if you know, if you have a vision for your life, if you have the list of what it is that you're looking for, as you suggested, what you want in your ideal partner, what is it you want in the if you want to have children, you want to have a mother of your child, what do you want in that? And to get your life plan done, what is it you want to do? What's your time frame? Is it a reasonable time frame? And eliminating all your personal hypocrisies. Basically, once you get yourself out of your own way, it's I'm trying to remember the name of a book somebody wrote, like Get Your Foot Off the Brake or something like that. Like, you've got your foot on the gas and your foot on the brake at the same time. You're not getting anywhere, and you're destroying your car, you're destroying your brakes, you're pissing away gas. Like, get out of your way, and eliminating those personal hypocrisies just will scatter through your life like lightning bolts. And the amount of time that you then spend on activities will be out of your way, so you'll be much more efficient. It's just a huge piece of advice, a very tall order. It's almost an entire podcast episode in itself to talk about eliminating your personal hypocrisies. And if that's something that you would like to talk about, I'll make a note, and we can actually have you on again to talk about that, because
sounds good.
I think that's a huge topic. Put a little asterisk. What is a book that you recommend, Frank? And you can be a shameless promoter if you'd like.
Okay, well, since today's original topic was on jerks, women, and relationships, I'm going to send you a coupon code for you to give to your listeners. It's going to be exclusive to your radio show and your listeners. It'll be a coupon code where you can pick up How to Steal Her from a Jerk, How to Seduce Her Away from a Jerk. It's a 2 CD set. We don't do CDs anymore. I'm dating myself. It's 2 audio downloads and an ebook. I'll send you a coupon code for that. And for those of you who are interested in eliminating the personal hypocrisies, my book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, is a workbook that deals exclusively with that.
Okay. Fantastic. So we've got How to Steal It from a Jerk and I'm a Man, That's My Job. Boom. Speaking of I'm a Man and That's My Job and personal hypocrisies, what is or who is a positive masculine, it could be actor, character, it could even be a real person that you recommend that Nice Gay Nation pay attention to?
Ooh, there's a number of them. But I'll just point out my absolute favorite self-help author, Robert Ringer, and his book, specifically his book, Looking Out for Number One, which is all about rational thinking. That book was one of the first books that I absorbed when I was suicidal, and I said, I got to change my life. Found that book, read the title, and one of the things I realized at that point, I don't put myself number one. I put everybody else number one because I want to be a nice guy. I want to be liked.
Yeah.
And it was reading that book and truly absorbing some of the principles in that book, which was a really good start for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up a really good point, is the idea of wanting to please everybody, to be liked by everybody, and then you end up not really being anywhere.
Yeah, I think that nice guys do get a really bad rep, because the fact is, when you're dealing with somebody who works with kids, and when you're dealing with somebody in general, people do appreciate nice guys. Where it gets bad for the nice guy is when he allows himself to be taken advantage of.
Correct.
When he's not choosy about who to be nice to. And the one thing, and I touched upon this earlier, I never advocate to a nice guy to stop being nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, because that's part of your character. It's part of your makeup. It's part of your soul, if you believe in souls. I don't want him to stop being a nice guy. What I do want is for him to pick and choose who he's nice to. Mm-hmm. And there's multiple levels of being nice. Now, there's a level where you're nice to everybody, meaning you don't commit acts of violence against anyone. And then when you go above and beyond the call of duty, to do it to everybody puts you in a position where you'll be taken advantage of and be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Give people the chance to earn. And that's a key word here. Let the person earn your attention. Let them earn your help. Find out if they're a worthy enough individual. Whether or not they can turn you on is not part of that criteria. Mm-hmm. So you're not doing something just because, I really like the person, so I'm going to give more of myself. Even the people that you are attracted to still must earn your attention. They must earn that commitment from you. You would be amazed. For the nice guys listening out there, you would be absolutely amazed to find out just how differently people perceive you when they understand that as nice as you are, they must still earn your niceness. And that is a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, sir, what is a quote that inspires you?
Quote that inspires me. The only thing that comes to mind are some quotes from Jim Henson, where he believed that he was put on this earth and he was one of those people that had to make a difference in the world, to leave the world better off than when he first arrived. And obviously I call myself Kermit because I'm such a fan of Jim Henson. You know, Jim Henson was not a violent man. He was an entertainer, a dreamer, an educator, all the things that I would aspire to be. And his desire to make the world a better place is one that I share. So if I had to choose a quote, I think it would be from Jim Henson. Leave the world a better place than when you first arrived.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, personally, I would argue that that's why we're all here in some shape or capacity, and that's why we all have talents and things that we're really good at, is to make room for them so that they can shine upon the world. And obviously with Jim Henson, he used his talents to shine upon the world, and we still see his work to this day, and even my own little guy watches Jim Henson stuff, and there's a lot of, as I'm sure you know, a lot of children's programming out there, and not all of it is approvable, I would say. But
no, there's a few things out there that are designed to entertain kids. What most people don't understand is that for children, there is no difference between entertainment and education. Right. It's all education when you're dealing with kids.
Yep. And Jim's work is definitely very educational, while at the same time being catchy, almost nauseatingly catchy, actually. And it's just out of all the stuff that my son watches, between Thomas the Train and anything from Jim Henson, he loves just about anything from Jim Henson. And then his other favorite, obviously, is Thomas the Train. And aside from somewhat teaching a bit of racism between the Steamies and the Diesels, they do teach a good work ethic, so I enjoy that.
Yeah. The importance of being very useful, which actually, you know what, it makes me think of the Viktor Frankl quote, and that the meaning of life is to find a way to contribute and to find love.
Yep.
You know, in my angrier days, I did understand the concept of finding a way to contribute, finding your talent, and finding your way to make the world a better place through contribution. But I didn't say I thought love. After everything I've been through, you know, the heck with love.
Yeah.
When you clear up your own internal garbage and you're in a position to find love, love can be a very powerful motivator as well. And becoming a parent made me realize that there was a satisfaction and a fulfillment I never knew I was missing. So I now get what Frankl was saying when the point, you know, the meaning of life, the point of life. Find a way to contribute, and that'll give you some level of fulfillment, and then find love, because that adds to the meaning of your life.
Yep.
You know, and which is why I love what I do, because sometimes I help people find the kind of love that they want in their lives, and sometimes once we take care of all the relationship stuff, then the question is, okay, now what I do with the rest of my life, and they may continue on with some life coaching, and I can help them find their way to contribute too.
Yeah.
So, I feel very blessed to be able to do what I do.
Fantastic. Yeah. How can Nice Guy Nation find out more about you?
Best way to find out about me, just visit my website, franktalks.com. franktalks.com. You'll find out everything you need to know about me. You'll see my books. You'll see my audio downloads. And we're currently working on a website that will have all of my media appearances on it. Every article I've written, every TV appearance, every radio appearance. You can find most of them on my YouTube channel. So if you want to see what I look like and you want to see all the radio and TV and stuff that I've done, you go visit my YouTube channel. Just type Frank Kermit in the search engine. There's plenty of videos that are going to come up. But start off with franktalks.com, and if you have any questions, you send me a line.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Frank, boom, unless there's anything else you want to throw out there.
Sure, I'm going to give you a coupon code that, again, will be for your listeners, and they'll be able to pick up some of my products at a much discounted rate so they can get an introduction.
Fantastic. Yeah, so if they go to the show notes page, then they'll be able to see a link where they can go ahead and go to your site. They'll have the coupon code as well. If they want to just go directly to the site, I'll put that in the show once I have that.
Mm-hmm.
And boom. Unless there's anything else, it's been good having you on, good knowing you, good chatting with you, sir. And
this was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, and if you ever want me on again, you just give me a holler.
You got it.
All the best, everybody. Take care.
Boom, Nice Guy Nation, welcome back. I hope you got a ton of information out of that. Your note page is just full of notes. You flipped it over to the backside. You even went onto the sides because we all know that a piece of paper has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So hopefully all 6 sides of your piece of paper. You're like, what are you talking about? Yes, there are 6 sides of a piece of paper. But what I'm getting at here is there's so much information that Frank was able to share with that tremendous discussion on how to steal that girl away from jerks, to save girls from jerks, which I know is a major topic for a lot of guys on Nice Guy Nation. So big, huge Nice Guy Nation thanks and high five to Frank for coming on, taking time out of his day to share his knowledge and his wisdom with us. Also as well, I'm trying to remember if I talked about it in the intro or not, but we are now on doing video on the YouTube portion. So if you go to niceguydating.ca/E236 into the show notes page, that is niceguydating.ca/E236, you can go and see the interview portion in video, as well as, of course, on YouTube, which is where the main feed is going to be. And as well, if you're interested in checking me speaking at the event at the Elite Man Conference, as well as 40 other speakers talking about how to turn you into an elite man, then make sure to grab your ticket at niceguydating.ca/Elite Man Conference. That is niceguydating.ca/Elite Man Conference. I look forward to seeing you there in August. And dude, until then, I cannot wait to see you on that flip side.
Thank you for listening to the Nice Guy Dating Podcast, where nice guys finish first. Feel free to check out Nice Guy Dating on the web at niceguydating.ca, where you'll find tons of free content helping you to live with truth, passion, and vision towards the dating life you deserve. Nice Guy Dating is also available on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Amazon Kindle, where you can find several Amazon Kindle best-selling books available to help you. Have any questions about the podcast, coaching with me, or just want to get in touch to say hi? Feel free to email me directly at kevin@niceguydating.ca.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men. From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com, franktalks.com.